Limited edition models can suck. The word limited means not everybody gets to have one. Sometimes it's limited to dozens, hundreds. In the case of Games Workshop models, it's more like thousands. But what about a model so limited that only one exists in the world? And I now have such a model. Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to Eons of Battle. I don't do commissions often, but recently the perfect project fell right into my lap. A maker by the name of FelixTheCrazy reached out to me asking if he could pay me to paint up one of his new projects. And knowing Felix, I knew exactly what I was in for. You see, the thing about Felix is that he really likes the Kroot, the alien bird lizards from the world of Warhammer 40k, with the powers of Kirby. His alternative cannibal chicken heads sit atop all my Kroot carnivores, and he has lots of other great designs over on his Cults 3D page. And sure enough, the project in question was the Doot Warrior, this model right here. It's a combination of a Kroot and the Doof Warrior from one of my all-time favorite films, Mad Max Fury Road. I still feel like I'm living off the adrenaline high of seeing that movie in theaters in 2015. A Kroot model and a Mad Max model, how could I say no? I primed the mini black to get my shadows in place, and then I zenithalled the model with an orange tan color to get some warmth. For this mini, I mostly glazed my base colors to take advantage of that zenithal. On the skin, a green glaze and then a red glaze. Then I just mixed more and more white into my colors and highlighted over and over until my colors were really bright, brighter than the original orange zenithal. I washed the entire model with Agrax Earthshade to give it some grime and dirt. Then it was time for the weapons. Right now, they're just a hodgepodge of spilled paint and wash, but that's fine. I just dry brush right on top with gray. Then a dry brushing of white. I picked out some of the pipes and details with light gray paint to make them look like they were made from different materials. Then some orange paint glaze to make it look like rust. On his face, I wanted to add a cool detail to make him a rock star, so a star over the eye would be sweet. I started by painting on a star with white paint and then painted over it with red. Now he's ready to shred. I can hear the war drums banging. This Kroot is ready to doot. Playing his guitar to work the war boys into a killing frenzy as they speed through the wasteland. This model was a blast to paint, and Felix loved it, so in terms of payment, Felix and I came up with a fun idea. Perhaps I could pull a reverse Uno card and get a commission out of my commission. I painted a model and Felix would design me a model. Any model I wanted, perhaps a really cool space warrior or some kind of sneaky assassin. But you don't ask a maestro to make you a pizza. Felix is the Kroot guy, I painted a Kroot for him, and so I asked him to make a Kroot for me. I have a burgeoning Kroot army. So far it's 16 Kroot carnivores, 2 Krootoxes, 3 Kroot hounds, and Diakech, the Kroot tracker from Blackstone Fortress. This is pretty much all there is out there for the Kroot, although Games Workshop did surprise me with the new Kroot kill team coming out in the next expansion. But it doesn't matter that the Kroot range is limited because Kroot are flexible. Literally. The Kroot can change their bodies by absorbing the DNA of their victims. If the Kroot wants to be stronger, they can just eat a bunch of orcs. Smarter, just snack on some Eldar. Anything is possible, so I asked Felix to make me a model of an old, wizened Kroot who can act as my ethereal, and Felix delivered. I give you the Kroot Elder, the leader of Kroot society, tasked with commanding Kroot war spheres. The Kroot don't make a move without the authorization from the Elder. And he will lead my Kroot Tau army as an ethereal countess. He has everything I asked for. A saggy old Kroot face, the commanding stick of power, and most importantly, the long flowing toga. The perfect canvas to do lots and lots of freehanding, something I'm not very good at, but there's only one way to improve, and that's what I plan to do. I have a few strategies that I've been dying to try out that should make the crazy alien tapestry I have in my head a reality. Let's just blast through that busy work of getting them all painted up so we can get to the good stuff, freehanding. I started off with a black prime and then a white zenithal. I want this Kroot to look a little cleaner, like he takes regular baths. Then some glazed on base coats of green, tan, brown, and bone. Then a black null yellow wash instead of Agrax Earthshade because this guy is clean. After that, it was just a matter of lots of highlights of greens and browns mixed with more and more white paints. On his stick, I want to paint a top view of wood layers, so I did a lot of small dots alternating between brown and tan, getting smaller and smaller until I was left with some convincing cross-section. And you know what else I find very convincing? That's right, our Patreon. For this month, we have for our patrons some gothic turret terrain pieces and the eye-catching Warriors of Paradise with 17 different head options, all hosted on comics, games, and things. Also, if you sign up, there's a welcome pack that includes Dawn of War Space Marine, Imperial Guard, and Eldar terrain. And if that was not enough, we also make Patreon exclusive videos where we critique viewers' models weekly and exclusive Discord hangouts. We also have merch, link in the description. Next up is the Quills, and I think since this is a very, very old Kroot, his quills have turned from a perfect porcupine black quill with a tan tip to kind of a brownish color with a really, really long like accent tip. I have to make that up because actually there's not tons and tons of information on anything from 40K really. What would be really cool is if Games Workshop made kind of like a bestiary or some sort of a book, kind of like a D&D book that was just tons and tons of facts about the different creatures, monsters, and species in the 40K universe. A book like this. This is Star Wars Essential Guide to Alien Species, and it's just got a really nice picture and then tons and tons of information on everything about that creature. This would be so helpful for 40K. And the lore. I get into lore arguments every single day, and it'd be so great to have true information tomes. Anyway, what was I doing? Oh yeah, painting an old man Kroot. I painted about half of each quill earth color and then the last quarter quill tan. Now onto that cloak. I took out my dry brush, but I didn't dry brush on the model. I stippled on some tan all over to give a nice texture. Right now, he's looking a little plasticky. Then I glazed some brown paint that was almost all water, painting it on and then taking just water on my brush and blending it out. Look at that sucker. He is perfect. I could stop now, but where's the fun in that? The model's finished and it can only go downhill from here, or perfect if my freehanding turns out real nice. But what I am going to need is a normal pencil. It looks like I used this one to stir paint, but it was the closest one to me. A Pigma brush, a Pigma brush tip pen. It's a little rattly, hopefully it still works. And a good pair of these. Although these I believe are the cheapest ones you can get. And I'm definitely gonna need all this stuff because let me show you guys the reference material I've picked out. This is an old weathered parchment map of the Siege of Terra, and I love that it's a little bit sci-fi but looks like an ancient document, and that color is perfect. Perfect for his toga. I took out the pencil and very carefully sketched out my planets and moons. Even though I'm using a pencil, I don't think I can erase. This model's paint is too textured and fragile. The pencil lines are pretty hard to see, but that's good. If I decide I don't like anything I drew, I can probably just ignore it and no one will ever know. Then I started coloring it in. I watered down the green, brown, and tan that was already on my palette, and I filled in all my pencil lines. I don't want any of this map to jump out at you. I want it subtle, so I glazed the same colors that are already on the cloak. I made some planets brown and some planets green. Perhaps the big green planet is the Kroot homeworld of Peck. You get it? Peck, because he's a bird? 40K is very serious. On all of the shapes, I had the darker color on the bottom and lighter colors on top to show the direction of the sun on the map. Oh my goodness, that pretty much worked. I think one of the things that was really helpful is that it's old weathered parchment with old, million-year-old ink on it that's faded. Ooh. The next step though is going to be inking all of the work I've done. And hopefully this isn't gonna be like jet black, but is gonna be like a nice gray to string all of it together. I took my pen and nervously touched it to the model, and it's pretty black. But I think it does the trick. The tip isn't as perfectly fine as my best paintbrushes, but it does the job. This experiment was a success. There would definitely be something to doing this all with a super fine paintbrush. And you know what? That might actually be slightly better, but there's definitely something to not having to refresh my paintbrush every 5 seconds. This pen can just go and go and go and go. His cloak was coming to life, and it does look like that map, and not like a little kid's Batman pajamas. Now I want some super fine green lines coming down from the top, so I took my paintbrush with long bristles and dragged downwards. This kind of gives the map a grid. You could get coordinates off of this toga. Then I did some minor corrections and brightened up the planets just a little. All right, I'm completely happy with the freehanding, but it's a little bit too bright. So I think I'm going to glaze just a little bit of tan over everything, and hopefully it won't ruin it. I took the tan paint and mixed it about 30-to-1 with water. I just want my map to blend in a little more, and this simple glaze did the trick perfectly. This one-of-a-kind model is done. This model is really special to me, not just because it's cool, but because it's got a great story. And I love storytelling. Most of my minis are just, I bought it, I painted it, but if there's a good story to go along with it, it goes into the vault of my most prized objects. Things like this pistol, engineered by some guy in Berlin, Germany, printed by some Etsy seller in Florida, and then finished and painted by me. This thing's got layers. And this Anakin Sky Potter pod racer. My dad bought this model kit for me when I was way too young and I ruined it. But when I became an adult, I tracked down another copy on eBay and built it and painted it perfectly. And now, this elderly Kroot, a model created through a commission paid for by another commission. Let's take a closer look at him. I know what y'all were thinking, Jay, you could have had any model and you picked an old Kroot in a bathrobe, but look what it turned into. He was probably a great warrior back in his youth, but now his authority comes from his brains, not his Kroot rifle. The Kroots are not the orcs, just brainless warriors. They actually do other things besides fighting. I think they would appreciate wisdom and promote the wisest among them. Good leaders don't need the biggest armor or the most powerful guns, just a stick and some smarts. He is glorious, and he is all mine. This is the only one that exists, no one else can have it. Just kidding, I told Felix to put it up on his Cult 3D page, and anybody who wants it can download it and have it for themselves for free. Download it, print it, paint it, and if you do, please share it with me. I would love to see it. I will proudly display this model and tell anybody who will listen to me the story of this Yoda-looking guy. Thanks for watching.